What's going on, everyone? In this video, I'm going to show you the 5 kind of like tricks that made me much faster on the shell. As a sysadmin or a programmer, or a DevOps engineer, or whatever the title is, you're going to spend a huge chunk of your time working in a shell environment. So it's worth investing some time into getting really fast. The things that I found waste the most time are things like typos while you're typing, forgetting to prepend something at the beginning of a command, and the kind of surprising one was poor navigation through log files. I didn't know how quickly you could get around a log file until I saw somebody who was much better than me doing it. One quick note, you already should know the basics of moving around in a shell. So if you don't know the prereqs, like navigating beginning or end of line, moving through space-delimited words in a command, searching backwards through your shell history as you type. If you don't know those things yet, I've got a linked video in the card. Just click on that. Watch that, make sure you're comfortable with that stuff. Start incorporating these 5 things into your daily work and you'll get a pretty huge speed boost. Okay, so the first thing is something I use all the time. When you run a command and you realize, crap, I had to use sudo for that, instead of going up for the previous command and then going to the beginning of the line and then typing sudo as you might, what you can do is just run sudo bang bang and you'll get prompted. So the bang bang is one of the bang commands. I'll actually do a separate video on those because they're pretty useful if you're working a lot on the shell with bash. Sudo bang bang just reruns the previous command with sudo prepended to the front. So this previous command, which was a find command that ended up looking in var log, and some directories that it couldn't look inside of without sudo permissions, now is simply run with sudo in the front. Super nice, super quick, useful. I use it pretty much every day. Thing number 2, killing and yanking text, that is cutting and pasting it or uncutting it. It's super useful. You'll use it all the time because a lot of the time if you're navigating around a file, let's say I want to eliminate the xargs, I'll navigate forward by word and then I want to kill the rest of that line to the end. What I would do is use ctrl-k to cut to the end of the line. And then I can, run this or whatever. If I want to yank the text back, I can just use ctrl-y, and that's going to give me back whatever I just cut. So that's ctrl-k, kill to the end of the line. If I want to do the inverse of that, which is killing to the, I suppose it's the opposite. Is it the inverse, the opposite? Whatever. The complementary action here would be killing to the beginning of the line, which you can do with ctrl-u. So ctrl-u cuts all text before the cursor. And again, the yank command, ctrl-y, works exactly the same. It'll always just contain the last thing that you cut. You can yank that back. Ctrl-w, which is kill word backwards, is another really useful one. If you just want to kill backwards word by word, this will ignore symbols and other stuff. It really just cares about spaces. So it's space-delimited words. You can kill one at a time. Yank still works the same way. Using all those things together, one of the nice things you can do is, let's say you find yourself typing in a place where you'd use sudo bang bang if you already made the mistake. One of the things you can do is you're at the end of the command and you realize, damn it, I need sudo. Nice flow for this, instead of ctrl-a and then sudo enter, if you want to keep typing at the end, is ctrl-u, that'll kill everything before the cursor, then sudo, and then ctrl-y. That gives you everything back, and then you're good. Play around with these a little bit. They'll suddenly feel very intuitive after 30 seconds or a minute of playing around. There's a table in the description below, so you can copy that to an index card or something and just have it sitting on your desk in front of you. Thing number, what are we on? Thing number 3. I love this one, and I use it a lot. If you are doing DevOps, sysadmin stuff, or even software development, you are spending a lot of time tailing log files. In fact, instead of just grabbing the tail, you're probably tail following. I don't know. Let's just grab syslog. And so this is one of those things where you're tailing the log and it's all nice and good, but then you realize, damn it, I actually wanted something from earlier in the log, or you got to it too late. What you really probably should be doing is instead of using tail with the -f option, use less plus f. And what that will do is it's less, so it doesn't load the entire file into a memory buffer, But the nice thing that you can do is that it starts you at the end. If you want to detach from the end, if you kind of want to unglue yourself from there, just hit ctrl-c, and then you can either scroll if your terminal supports that, or just use keyboard shortcuts to move around, and you have the entire file at your disposal, so it's not just whatever number of lines tail gave you or you asked for. If you ever want to reattach again, just hit Shift-F. Control-C to get out of follow mode, and then Q to exit. The other thing is, if you actually forget the +F, it's not even that important that you use the +F. So let's say you're just using less and you're looking through and it's like a huge file. This can take a second, but as you're paging down, let's say with the spacebar, you realize like, oh, this is not a 10 gig file, it's much smaller, so it's something I can actually load pretty quickly. Well, then you can just Shift F and it'll bring you right down to the bottom. Again, that's a tiny bit iffy on huge files. They'll take a long time because it will I'm pretty sure it just does like a linear, it loads the entire thing into memory and then sticks you at the end where data's still getting streamed in. Okay, so that is less +F, and again, Shift F glues you back to the end, Control-C unglues you, and then Q just quits. So for my next trick, when you're writing a command that might be a little bit more than what you're comfortable editing in a command line, like a larger for loop or a bunch of for loops, something that starts turning into something kind of scripty, but you still don't really care about saving it. So we'll say for host in hosts do, and then you're like, I'd really like a new line here, so like keep this nice and readable. Well, the thing you can do is hold down Control, and then X-E. And what that'll do is it'll pop you into a buffer for whatever is set to editor. So that's the, if you do like echo editor, you'll see what your editor's set to. I don't really recommend doing this with like Nano. It can have kind of confusing behavior. But if you're using Vim or Emacs and that's just what your editor is set to, I highly recommend using that every once in a while. When you get yourself into trouble with like a really long line that you're editing and you just really would like the shortcuts that you're used to, that's a lovely thing to do. Basically, if you write and quit this, it will actually pipe this into your shell and then it'll be executed. So you can see it's just echoing out all of the IPs that I put in there. It looks like one's incorrect. That's what I get. Anyway, fun, useful. Basically, switch to your favorite text editor to finish editing a command that's getting unwieldy in the terminal. Thing number 5. A really useful little thing that I actually just recently discovered. If you're, for example, pinging 8888, just for instance here, and then you want to do some other stuff. I mean, that's often we're like exploring a host, or we're kind of poking and prodding it, and you're running nmap and you're running ping and you're trying to telnet to something and you're maybe doing netcat or something. Who knows? You're doing something repeatedly, different things. You're doing a bunch of different things to kind of work on one resource like a host. One of the things that's really useful is the alt period command. And what that is so I just ran ping and my argument was the IP address that I want to ping. If I want to mtr this, which is a much better trace route, then I can just do mtr and then alt period, and it will just give me the argument of my last successful command. So mtr, oh god, why is it, damn it, Ubuntu. Ruin even mtr, curses, I think. Yes, so that actually needed another argument. That's a terrible example, but the point is, alt period will just paste your previous command's argument once. Bonus round. Bonus round, bonus round, bonus round. So I actually couldn't get my terminal screwed up enough. Occasionally, like Git will do this. Occasionally, SSH logins that have gone bad and kind of disconnected and the pipe's broken will do this. But occasionally, you'll get a terminal that's really screwed up. It'll be like you'll hit enter and it'll just print another one of these next to it on the same line, and so you just kind of get moved over all the way to the right. And things are just getting really wonky, but you don't necessarily want to close your terminal. One of the things you can do is type reset, and that will kind of get things back to how they started. It will unbork a lot of things that tend to get borked. This will probably work like 90% of the time. Again, I noticed this myself, especially with like remote shells. Virtual envs can do this if you're working in Python. I'm assuming Ruby env. Anything that's like really messing with your terminal can cause these strange bork situations. And when you kind of don't know what to do and you're about to just like close the terminal and open a new tab or terminal session, reset can save the day. Putting that in there as a bonus, it's just a nice little thing to have in your tool bag. Okay, so those are the 5 things that I find myself using the most to get around the shell quickly and kind of be efficient, get my work done fast. There's definitely other ones like transposing lines or characters, but these are the ones that I find myself actually using all day long. I hope that's been helpful. If it has, remember to subscribe and like, notify, even though that doesn't really work anymore. You know, pray to the YouTube gods that one day you might see another video of mine. All right. Thanks again. Peace.